At the beginning, before the dawn of time, there was only the infinite presence of God. Out of the formless void, a voice spoke, "Let there be light." And with that single command, light pierced the darkness. Over 6 divine days, the universe was meticulously crafted. He separated the waters from the sky and gathered the seas to reveal dry land. The earth sprouted with vibrant vegetation, and the heavens were adorned with the sun to rule the day, and the moon to govern the night. In the heart of this paradise, the Garden of Eden, God sculpted the first man, Adam, from the earth itself, breathing into him the very breath of life. To give him a partner, God created Eve from Adam's own side. They walked with God in the cool of the day, their existence a perfect harmony, with a single prohibition: do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But a shadow fell upon paradise. A serpent, the most cunning of all beasts, twisted God's words, promising godlike wisdom. Eve took the forbidden fruit. She ate and gave it to Adam. In an instant, their innocence was shattered. Shame flooded their hearts, and for the first time, they hid from their Creator, their perfect bond broken. Their sons, Cain and Abel, brought offerings. God favored Abel's sacrifice from the heart, but not Cain's. Consumed by jealousy, Cain rose up against his brother, and the first human blood stained the new earth. As centuries passed, humanity multiplied, but their hearts grew darker. The world filled with violence, and God's heart was grieved. Yet one man, Noah, found grace in God's eyes. God commanded him to build a colossal ark, a floating sanctuary. Noah obeyed, gathering his family and 2 of every living creature. Then the great doors were sealed and the judgment began. Rain fell for 40 days and nights as the waters rose, covering the highest mountains, until all that was left was the ark, a solitary vessel carrying the hope of a new world. When the waters receded, they stepped out onto a world washed clean. As Noah worshipped, God set a magnificent rainbow in the clouds, a covenant, a promise to never again destroy the world by flood. But humanity's memory was short. They settled in a plain and, in their pride, began building a tower to the heavens to make a name for themselves. God saw their united rebellion. He descended and confused their language, turning their speech into a babel of sounds. Divided, they scattered across the globe, forming the nations of the world. And from these scattered people, God would soon choose one man to begin his covenant of redemption. From the scattered nations of Babel, God chose one man, Abram, from the city of Ur. He called him to leave his homeland and journey to a land of promise, with a covenant that would echo through eternity. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you, and all people on earth will be blessed through you. Trusting this divine call, Abraham, his wife Sarah, and his nephew Lot began their epic pilgrimage. As their wealth grew, so did the strife between them. In a great act of faith and peace, Abraham allowed Lot to choose his own land. Lot chose the fertile plains near the wicked city of Sodom, while Abraham remained in Canaan, where God reaffirmed his promise, comparing his future descendants to the countless stars in the sky. Yet the promise of a son remained unfulfilled. Years passed, and Sarah, barren and old, gave her Egyptian servant Hagar to Abraham to bear a child, Ishmael. But this was not the child of the promise. Later, 3 heavenly messengers visited Abraham, declaring that in 1 year, Sarah herself would give birth. In her old age, Sarah overheard and laughed, finding the promise impossible. But is anything too hard for the Lord? Before leaving, the visitors revealed the coming judgment upon Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham, in his compassion, pleaded with God to spare the city for the sake of the righteous. Though God's justice fell like fire and brimstone, he mercifully delivered Lot from the destruction. Then, against all odds, the miracle happened. Abraham, at 100 years old, held his promised son, Isaac. But his faith was to face its ultimate test. God commanded him to take Isaac to the mountain of Moriah and offer him as a sacrifice. With a heavy heart, Abraham obeyed. He built the altar, bound his only beloved son, and raised the knife. At that final, agonizing moment, an angel of the Lord called out, stopping his hand and providing a ram as a substitute. Through this ultimate act of obedience, Abraham proved his unwavering faith. He became the father of a nation, and the ancestor through whom God's promise of redemption for all humanity would one day be fulfilled. The divine promise passed from Abraham to Isaac, now rested on the next generation, a pair of struggling twins. Esau, the firstborn, was a rugged hunter, his father's favorite. Jacob was a quiet man, his mother's. From birth, they were rivals. One day, Esau returned from the hunt, famished, and sold his birthright to Jacob for a simple bowl of stew. Later, with his mother Rebekah's help, Jacob deceived his blind father Isaac, stealing the patriarchal blessing meant for Esau. Enraged and betrayed, Esau vowed to kill his brother, forcing Jacob to flee for his life. Alone in the wilderness with only a stone for a pillow, Jacob dreamed of a great ladder reaching into heaven, with angels of God ascending and descending on it. There, God renewed his covenant, promising Jacob the land, countless descendants, and his unwavering presence. Jacob found his way to his uncle Laban's home in Haran. At a well, he met Laban's daughter Rachel and fell in love instantly, agreeing to work 7 years to win her hand. But on his wedding night, the deceitful Laban tricked him, giving him his older, less loved daughter, Leah, instead. Jacob was forced to work another 7 years for Rachel. Through these years, his family grew. Leah bore him many sons, and at last his beloved Rachel gave birth to a son named Joseph. After 20 years of service, Jacob left Laban to return to his homeland, but he was filled with fear at the prospect of meeting Esau. The night before their reunion, he sent his family across the river and remained alone. A mysterious man appeared and wrestled with him until daybreak. Jacob, though injured, clung to him and said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." The man renamed him Israel, for he had struggled with God and man and had overcome. The next day, Jacob, now humbled and limping, met his brother. The feared confrontation melted into an embrace of forgiveness as Esau ran to meet him, and the two wept. Jacob, now Israel, settled back in the land of promise, a patriarch of 12 sons. But his deep love for Joseph, the son of his old age, set the stage for tragedy. He gave Joseph a magnificent coat of many colors, a clear mark of favor. This act of love would plant a seed of bitter jealousy in his brothers' hearts, leading to an act of betrayal that would change the course of their history forever. The love Jacob showered on his son Joseph, symbolized by a magnificent coat of many colors, ignited a fire of jealousy in his brothers' hearts. Joseph's dreams, which foretold his family bowing down to him, fanned these flames into a raging inferno. One day they saw their chance. They ambushed the boy, stripped him of his coat, and cast him into a pit. Selling him into slavery for 20 pieces of silver, they sealed his fate, and then dipped his precious coat in goat's blood, presenting it to their father as proof of his tragic death. Jacob's world shattered, his heart broken by a grief that would haunt him for decades. Meanwhile, Joseph was taken to Egypt and sold to Potiphar, an official of Pharaoh. Despite his circumstances, Joseph excelled. God was with him, and everything he touched prospered. He earned Potiphar's complete trust and was put in charge of his entire household. But his integrity was put to the test when Potiphar's wife desired him. When he refused her advances, her lust turned to rage. She falsely accused him, and the trusted servant was thrown into the royal prison, his future once again stolen from him. Yet even in the darkness of the dungeon, Joseph's character shone. He was soon interpreting dreams for Pharaoh's imprisoned butler and baker, foretelling their fates with divine accuracy. His only request was to be remembered, but he was forgotten. 2 years later, Pharaoh himself was plagued by disturbing dreams that no one in his kingdom could interpret. It was then that the butler finally remembered the Hebrew in the prison. Joseph was summoned, and standing before the most powerful man in the world, he interpreted the dreams not as his own wisdom, but as a message from God. 7 years of great plenty would be followed by 7 years of devastating famine. Stunned by his wisdom, Pharaoh did something extraordinary. He elevated the former slave, the forgotten prisoner, to be the viceroy of Egypt, second only to himself. Joseph's plan saved the nation, and as the famine tightened its grip across the world, it drove 10 desperate brothers from the land of Canaan to Egypt, seeking to buy grain. There they came and bowed their faces to the ground before the powerful Egyptian governor, never realizing they were kneeling before the very brother they had sold into slavery so many years ago. Face to face with the brother they betrayed, Joseph's siblings did not recognize him. To test their hearts, Joseph put them through a series of trials, culminating in his silver cup being hidden in the sack of his youngest brother Benjamin. When it was found, their fate seemed sealed. But here the true change was revealed. Judah, the very brother who had suggested selling Joseph, stepped forward and offered to become a slave in Benjamin's place, to spare their father the heartbreak that would surely kill him. Seeing their repentance and selfless love, Joseph could no longer contain himself. He ordered everyone out of the room, and in a moment of raw, overwhelming emotion, he wept and revealed his identity. "I am Joseph," he cried. His brothers were frozen in terror, but he drew them close. "Do not be angry with yourselves," he said, "for God sent me before you to preserve life. It was not you who sent me here, but God." Pharaoh invited Joseph's entire family to settle in Egypt, and at last, after 22 long years, Jacob was reunited with the son he thought he had lost forever. The family prospered in the land of Goshen. Years later, after their father died, the brothers, fearing Joseph's retribution, begged for his forgiveness. But Joseph's response cemented his legacy of grace. "You intended to harm me," he told them, "but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." And so, a family broken by jealousy was made whole by forgiveness, ready to become the great nation God had promised.